And we have now with us Benny Vasquez. Is this correct, how I pronounce it? Yes, Benny Vasquez from AlmaLinux OS Foundation. And OS stands for open source or operating system. Operating system. Yeah. So you are the chair of the foundation of AlmaLinux and will tell us now what AlmaLinux is, how the community has built, and then I know you will have a talk tomorrow. Tomorrow morning you will then explain in deep how the community has built, and in the afternoon also above. So, wonderful.
Perfect.
Thank you for your contribution. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first SFXCon, and I am extremely excited to be here. Thank you for being part of the community in general. I think we all agree that it's a very important thing. I have 15 minutes and 30 slides, so we're going to make this work. Most important question, what is AlmaLinux? It is an operating system in the enterprise Linux ecosystem. We have 10 years of support. It is fully free. It was born, if you are familiar with the Red Hat ecosystem at all, it was born after the end of life of the traditional downstream CentOS Linux. If you are familiar with the ecosystem, there was a bunch of drama. We don't have to get into it. But the basics are, we are now building from the same sources that Red Hat is because we want to comply with all of the user agreements that are in place everywhere. And we are working to correct the problems or adjust for the problems that we saw with the CentOS project. We have support for all of the major architectures that you might use. If there's something else that you want to use, come talk to us. I'm sure we can make it happen. We love to work with people who have a passion about something. Also, if you use a Raspberry Pi, we have a slew of Pi support because we're all the Pi dorks. So like 3 and forward, we support. Because of those two things, we have gotten a ton of adoption. And it's in all over the place, in supercomputing, in home servers, in just all over the place. And like even from the remarkable to the everyday, including both the Paris Metro and BART in San Francisco both use AlmaLinux, which is fantastic for me. It really proves to me the importance of what we're doing. We are on 6 of the top 500 HPC clusters as of this year, doubling from last year where we only had 3. If you want to use AlmaLinux, you can go to that URL at the bottom and use it basically anywhere. If you are, like, you can download all of the images that you need, all of the formats that you need. Most importantly, I have yet to find a web host that doesn't provide AlmaLinux. If you find one that doesn't and you need help getting support for it, let me know. I got you. Just as important as what we are is who we are, because, like I said, we're trying to correct the problems that we saw with CentOS. What we saw was no central form of ownership before the project became part of Red Hat. And so what we did was set up a nonprofit foundation to own everything. It is controlled and managed by volunteers. It is the membership is open to anyone who wants to join. Even if you are a user, it's important to me that you have a voice, because as a user of CentOS, I didn't get to have a voice. I wasn't an active contributor to the code because there was very little contribution to be made to the code, and that meant that I didn't get to have a voice or a say in what happened. That's the thing we're correcting with this. You can join as an individual for free. We have sponsored memberships if you are interested in backing us on a financial basis. We have an elected board that includes our friend Simon over there. The thing that makes this remarkable, and actually this reminds me, we have to run another election next year. The thing that makes this remarkable for me is that the people who get to vote on these members are the people who are members of the foundation. So you, as a member, can run for the board if you want to. And while all of the people here are specifically invested in the future of AlmaLinux for a variety of reasons, you don't have to be a sponsor to join the board. You can just be a normal person and come influence the future. We balance the elected board with an appointed board that I'll get into a little bit later about why this exists, but we set up an engineering steering committee to help with technical decisions and provide a central point of collaboration for anybody that wants to engage in the project. We have, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with special interest groups. We have a ton of them. This is not an inclusive list. It was just what I could fit on the slide. It is, and obviously these lists don't cover all of the things that those SIGs do. It is a very active project with lots of opportunities. No matter what skills you have or what skills you want to build, we've got a spot for you if you want to come hang out. We have, actually, there are 3 logos that I need to add to that as of to a week ago, which is very exciting for me. That takes us up to 34 sponsors in our first 3.5 years. We continued, these sponsors provide us either hardware or resources for building or humans that do the work or, money. Money's always nice. Those companies all contribute to our success in a way that proves, from my perspective, that they know what we're doing is important. The operating system is delivered on a global scale via more than 400 mirrors that are all volunteer hosted. Those are all hosted and built and set up and managed by volunteers. The system is across 6 continents. If anybody has a contact in Antarctica that wants to help me out, let me know. I'd love to get 7. That'd be great. And this graph here is the devices that have been calling home to our mirror system since we implemented what we call Count Me in 2022. You'll see that that's kind of an exponential graph. The first year we gained 200,000 devices. The next year we gained 400,000 devices. This year we're on track to more than double to 1.2, we're already at 1.2 million. That'll continue because we still have 2 months left. So obviously, again, there's a reason we're here. So what do we do besides just release an operating system? Because we've got some other stuff that we're excited about. One of the things that came up, so at the beginning around FOSDEM, every year we have what I call an AlmaLinux Leadership Summit, which is really just as many of the SIG leaders as I can get to come to Brussels, and as many of the board leaders as I can get to come to Brussels. We spend a day in our room and talk about our problems, talk about how we want to fix them, talk about what we want to do in the next year. And this year when we got together, as we were going through our decision-making process, we realized that this had kind of become our motto. We're not here to cause drama in any way, and especially with all of the amazing things that people are doing on AlmaLinux, nobody wants drama in their operating system. You don't want it in the foundation. You don't want it in the tech. You don't, it doesn't help anybody. So we have made this one of our driving focuses, is making sure that when you come to AlmaLinux, you don't have to deal with drama, you just get a solid operating system. Last year, when we started building from the same source as Red Hat, we got a bunch of freedom that allows us to serve our community better. A lot of the time that means that we are releasing bug patches and security fixes ahead of Red Hat if our community needs it. Often Red Hat is doing a great job of serving its community. We have, for example, one of the patches was a bug that was announced in January. In March, Red Hat still hadn't patched it because in this case, it was specifically targeted at multi-user systems. And we have a huge amount of adoption in areas where there are lots of multi-user systems, like web hosting, for example, and Red Hat doesn't. So they didn't really care about it, but once we were made aware of it, we patched it within a week because it was so critical for our users. The other promise that we have made to our users is that we will maintain RHEL compatibility as much as possible. And that means that even if we are patching outside of the Red Hat release cycle, when Red Hat does eventually release the patch, we sync back up with them, because it is incredibly important that we are as close to Red Hat as possible for all of our community. That means that you'll see things like commit messages and that kind of stuff adjust to what Red Hat has. Even if the patch is identical, we're going to pull in exactly what they did, because to us it matters. If you ever want to see what we're not duplicating, it's on our wiki, because that's information we can provide. One of the other pain points that we as CentOS users had was the inability to upgrade between major versions. Project Elevate fixes that. It's a fork of a Red Hat product that is open source, and we built the metadata to allow you to do all of these upgrades, follow all of these paths. This year we added CentOS 6 support because it was really obvious to us the number of devices that could be still updated if we added it. The day that we added it, there was a guy that commented on Reddit that said, I still have 4 devices on CentOS 6 that I'm going to go try and upgrade now. He got 3 of them to AlmaLinux 8 and 1 of them to 9. And that, to me, is exactly what we're trying to do, is secure more infrastructure on the internet with ease, right? We even got this guy that came into the chat who had installed CentOS 7 way back when, and then never touched it. And in about 4 hours, using Elevate and help in the chat, he got it all the way updated to AlmaLinux 9. Like, that's massive to me. We also build the system that we use to build AlmaLinux and release it open source. It has all kinds of features. You can contribute to it. We actually just added a bunch of documentation to our wiki. So if you're interested in that, come hang out. And soon we're hoping to open it up so that anybody can use our build system to build packages for AlmaLinux or Enterprise Linux in general. I wanted to be Steve Jobs for a second, listen. There's one more cool thing that we did this year. At AlmaLinux, we are constantly trying to anticipate the next hurdle, the next thing that's going to come up. And for us, the next big thing is version 10. We're anticipating it being released next year in spring. And so when we started seeing CentOS Stream 10 code be released or be built in their repos, we started looking at that and setting up our build system. The build and infrastructure teams, or SIGs, have been working on that since, I want to say, either March or April. And as of last month, we were able to actually release what we're calling AlmaLinux Kitten. So the joke there is that all of our code names are cats. So, exactly. Thank you for all getting it. AlmaLinux Kitten 10 is not something I anticipate being used in production and doesn't have, like, Elevate doesn't support it and that kind of stuff. But it is, I mean, Stream is a very stable operating system, so it's not hard to use AlmaLinux Kitten on things if you're interested. The other thing that this does is give people who are building based on AlmaLinux early access to what AlmaLinux 10 is going to look like. Otherwise, we would have had, a couple of months of setup time next year, and then they would have had a couple of months after we released to get on board. So this gives them early access to that. I go through the whys here, but I've already really talked about them. Here's one of the cool things that we're doing, again, embracing that freedom that we get from Red Hat. We have made some adjustments. One of the big things is that we're adding an additional build because in 10, we are shifting, Red Hat is shifting from support for 8664 v2 to v3, and there are still a number of devices that need v2 support. If you are using v2 and you're using Apple, please come talk to me because I am very interested about what we're going to do with that. Everybody knows here how to contribute to an open source project, but I do have this slide that you can look at. It's got all of the individual ways you can contribute, all of the commercial and company ways you can contribute, a reminder about all of the different SIGs that we have that you can come be part of, and if you are curious about AlmaLinux and you want to get more information, there's this awesome guide that Admin Magazine put together that has 5 articles about AlmaLinux and all of the different things that I just talked about in more depth. And that's where you can find me, and that's where you can find us. Come hang out. We'd love to have you.